Let's face it, we've all had our fair share of guilty pleasure watches. Whether we're keeping up with the Kardashians or being too hot to handle, reality shows and the people therein are celebrities in our book. But today, I'm Nate and we're breaking down the top 10 celebrity reality shows that expose too much. Number 10, Too Hot to Handle. Netflix is slowly becoming the place to find the trashiest TV shows that we just can't stop watching. While we were all stuck at home in 2020, Netflix was hard at work producing this little gem of a toxic TV show called Too Hot to Handle. The show brought together a group of what they called serial swipers, people who were very open about their, well, openness with other people. The aim was to bring 10 people to a beautiful resort on the ocean with the promise of fun under the sun, no juice, and of course, love making. Well, too bad so sad. The moment that they were comfortable on the island, the rug would be pulled from underneath their feet and a little Google Home named Alana would appear to inform them that they were prohibited from participating in any physical relations of any kind. If they could do this for 1 month, everyone in the house got to split a $100,000 cash prize. Now, while this sounds easy to you or me, this show exposed just how little self-control some people really have. During their time on the island, the crew would participate in group therapy sessions and relationship building exercises, as the goal of the show was to rehabilitate these people into being able to have successful long-term relationships instead of just one-night flings. While the show did produce a few relationships that are still together today, the majority of contestants ignored these rules immediately, to the point where in season 3, a couple named Nathan and Holly received over $200,000 in financial penalties for breaking every single rule of the show multiple times. Season 3's grand prize was $200,000. These people spent it like in a week. Hey pretty people, the beach is right there. Why don't you just go like swim for a month and let everybody get some money? Number 9, Catfish. No, we're not talking about the delicious deep fried treat that you were probably hoping for. Catfish is a long-running series on MTV. It's the only other show that comes on the channel between ridiculousness and ridiculousness. The series follows Nev Campbell and his best friend slash cameraman, Max Joseph, as they help people who are in online relationships to meet their significant others face to face. But it's called Catfish because, well, the majority of these situations end up being completely fabricated. Catfishing is when someone makes a fake profile online with the intent to mislead people or extort them for something. Many of the people that they brought on the show had been in long-distance relationships for years online, meaning for years they were being scammed and lied to. The show usually climaxes with the crew confronting the alleged catfish and exposing those who may try to do similar things in the future. Thankfully, there have been a few good moments on the show where either the person was who they said they were, or the looks just simply didn't matter. Some people just fell in love with the person that they were typing with and not their specific profile. And some people get catfished by your cousins because you commented on their weight a few years ago. That was a weird one. Number 8, Love is Blind. Oops, I didn't see you there. Love is Blind is another reality gem from Netflix, this time following 15 men and women looking for love. And the twist? Well, they initially meet each other through a wall in separate rooms, being on literal blind dates. This premise is cute as it sets up some really genuine connections made without the need of seeing how attractive your future partner may be. The show produced a pretty impressive amount of genuine connections in long-lasting relationships, but it also revealed just how chaotic people can be. In season 1, a contestant named Jessica stole the show for being the literal embodiment of Chardonnay. She was always seen with a glass in her hand and a song in her heart. She became infatuated with a man named Mark. Their conversations were flowing so well through the wall that it was a no-brainer, but when she met him in person, she was noticeably disappointed with Mark's appearance. She also told us that she was disappointed and claimed that Mark wasn't her usual type. Over that season, Jessica would constantly go too hard on the no juice and yell at Mark, telling him how much she didn't want to be with him. They had a lot of fights and ultimately didn't end up getting married, which, oh, by the way, is what happens at the end of each of the seasons. They're supposed to decide if they want to get married, keep dating, or just break up live on TV. She wasn't the only example of this premise not working though. As expected, with every subsequent season has come a slew of chaotic bads that we love to hate, with the most recent season starring a man who is just the concept of misogyny in a tiny package. Number 7, Bachelor in Paradise. Bachelor in Paradise is a spin-off series of the popular reality shows The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, in which one man or woman lives in a house with 24 prospective lovers of the opposite gender and slowly whittles their way down to one final contestant. The show first aired in 2002 and has been pumping out new seasons every single year. But in 2014, the producers decided to capitalize on their past and invite former bachelors and bachelorettes from previous seasons to appear live on an island together in an attempt to find a fiance. Since 2014, this show has been nothing but a prime example on how little people care about others' feelings. Many contestants on the show would pair up with someone within the first few days, but as many dating shows like to do, they brought people in halfway through the experience to test the loyalty of the already existing couples. And of course, 9 times out of 10, those contestants would abandon their previous relationships almost immediately for the fresh new meat. So much of the show's runtime is dedicated to just watching people cry because the person they were cuddling with that morning are now with a new girl chilling on the daybed. The worst thing with shows like this is not only do these people have to endure a fair amount of heartache, but every single tear is filmed for the world to see and scar them for the rest of their love lives. Number 6, 90 Day Fiance. This show is just, it's so good. 90 Day Fiance is a show that has aired on TLC since 2014. The premise of the show followed people from foreign countries who have applied for a K-1 visa, offered to fiancés and fiancees of American citizens with the prospect of becoming married within 90 days of their stays in the States, hence the title. The prospective fiancés would fly in to meet their possible future husbands or wives. The show has produced some of the most obvious cases of fake relationships and people being used as a means to gain citizenship. Most of the couples consisted of the US citizen being a little more mature than the future fiancé. Age difference aside though, most of these people had little to nothing in common, and most of the relationships ended in no marriages and a long plane ride home. See, this program showcased the exact lengths some people will go to get away from the harsh situations that they have at home. Many of the foreign fiancés are trying to make a new start in a safer place than where they're used to. Maybe we should give them more than like 90 days to adjust to that new life and fall in love. Just saying. Number 5, The Real Housewives. We're not specifying any one specific season of the series, as the premise of The Real Housewives of blank has been used over and over again and has always been exhausting. The Real Housewives regularly consists of a group of women, usually wealthy, going about their lives, living job-free and ready to bouge it up. As you may expect, rich people kinda suck, so the show was a breeding ground for verbal spats, physical altercations, and a lot of spray tan. The series just exposed the reality of people who are so-called elites as short-tempered toddlers with too much money to spend. Most of the cast that was showcased had little to no redeeming qualities about their personalities, and then in the end just come off as pretty on the outside but sad on the inside. Number 4, Naked and Afraid. First of all, to whoever pitched this show and to whoever agreed to make it, go get some help. Naked and Afraid has one of the most accurate reality show titles in history. The show follows 2 contestants dropped into the middle of the woods with no food, water, or clothes, and they're only given one item to help them survive. Yeah, let's leave people in the forest without clothes or sustenance and film it. That sounds like fun for the whole family. The show exposed a few things in a few ways. Yes, obviously, the contestants were exposed way too much. Seriously, thank God for the power of blurring things out. It also exposed just how little major studios seem to care about the safety of the people that they hired. For instance, the show Survivor shares a similar premise, only they have shelters, they can win food, and everyone's wearing clothes. The idea of sleeping in a tent that you fashioned from sticks and leaves completely in your birthday suit sounds like the most uncomfortable experience in the world, unless, you enjoy bugs crawling up your butt. Number 3, 60 Days In. This reality show comes from the channel A&E and first premiered in March 2016. The show followed a number of individuals who have volunteered to spend 60 days in Clark County Correctional to gain inside info on what's happening behind closed bars. The show turned out exactly as you would expect. Stitches got stitches. Not only did these people basically sign up to be the number one thing that you should never be as a criminal, but the majority of people were unconvincing as inmates and were sniffed out almost immediately. Thankfully, the show had a system in place where participants could opt out of those 60 days if they were feeling unsafe, with one of the fastest dips being less than a day. The show exposed massive issues in the prison system's method of rehabilitation, not to mention the mistreatment of the inmates who, in some cases, are not violent offenders at all and just serving their time. Through the entire 100 episodes of the series, only a handful ever made it the full 60 days. Number 2, The Pickup Artist. VH1, a channel that we've all certainly come to forget by now. VH1 produced some truly questionable reality shows in its lifespan, but today we're covering the worst one of them all. The Pickup Artist was a simple premise. Men would work with pickup coaches in an attempt to gain confidence and meet ladies. They would then send the men into public places and just let them loose while the coaches watched on a screen. This show is just disgusting to say the least. It exposes the toxic mindset that men need to be like alpha males and take what they want. It suggested that women responded to misogynistic comments and inappropriate gestures were considered cute or funny, when in reality these dudes were just the creeps of the crop. The runtime was dedicated to showing the men learning these tactics, which almost always failed them miserably because, hey, it turns out having a tactic to get a woman is pretty gross, and they've gotten very good at spotting them. The reality is you can teach someone to be more confident, but you shouldn't do that by making rude comments about women's backsides. I got my girlfriend by walking up to her and dropping a little of the careless whisper. Ha, man, she puts up with a lot from me. Number 1, Snowflake Mountain. Snowflake Mountain is one of the most recent reality shows to premiere on Netflix, and the premise is perfect. This show follows a bunch of spoiled rich kids who were brought to the wilderness under the impression that they will be staying at a luxury cottage near a lake with a 5-star chef ready to cook whenever their hearts desired. The reality was much worse than that. Well, for them. Instead of a luxury cottage, the crew were escorted by survivalists/hosts for the show, Joel Greaves and Matt Tate, to a pretty nice campground with little cottages and a kitchen, and they even had a little outhouse like in the beginning of Shrek. Oh, and they blow up all their suitcases like right at the beginning, just like as a lesson or something. I don't know, it's okay, they all get their stuff back at the end. To me, this sounds like a very relaxing weekend and honestly a solid opportunity to just disconnect from the world, but for these participants, it was literally torture to them. Within the first few hours, the crew were struggling to adjust to life in the woods, being forced to use an outhouse and cook outside. Oh my god, it's so horrible. The reaction from a lot of the participants are hilarious enough, but when someone complains too much or doesn't participate in a group activity, they get sent to Last Chance Lake, where they are forced to camp next to a lake. Like, they make it sound horrifying, but the reality is they just have to spend a night in a tiny tent on the ground and think about their actions. This sounds peaceful to us, but for one contestant, the experience was enough for him to call it quits after just 2 episodes. Thankfully, a few of the participants actually did end up doing super well and left with some new skills and appreciation for what they already had back home, but Snowflake Mountain exposed us to the reality that our so-called next generation is left helpless when stripped of their Wi-Fi and cozy condos. And those are the top 10 reality shows that expose too much. If you'd like to see a part 2, please like and comment below, because I found a long list of things to talk about, but only could use 10. So, thank you guys. As always, thank you for checking out our content, and we hope you guys have an awesome day. See you next time.